Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkie and Drury. Happy New Year. Clarkie, this is the cutoff. Happy New Year's over after today. I think we've reached the finish line of Happy New Year's.
It's our first show of the year. That's all we can say. We don't
have
say
to
Happy
do
New
it.
Year. We're not going to do that.
It's the first show of the year, so Happy New Year is acceptable today. We're excited, man. We got a loaded show here.
There's so much going on. We needed two guests.
So much to talk about. We needed a couple guests, and we're going to bring on our first one here. Longtime executive, hockey voice, author, Stellick. Let's go. I've read it many times. Let's welcome on our friend and yours, Gord Stellick, ladies and gentlemen. Gord, how are you? Happy New Year, sir.
Well, Happy New Year to you guys. I love the name Instigating, so I'm thinking about memories. We'll go down memory lane. So beyond other things, God, it's over 30 years ago. Negatives in hockey are hockey lockouts, particularly the lost year in 2004 and 5. But 1994, Clarkie, it was half a season. And somehow you arranged a game at the Sky Dome, now called the Rogers Center. We played touch football.
Yeah.
There were 4 teams, the Jays office, the Argos office, the Toronto Sun. Yeah. And Clarkie was the quarterback. I mean, he was Josh Allen. And we played a couple of games, and I was the receiver. But I was the instigator of the shift disturbing. Remember, there was no officiating, and that was my role about when we were pissed about what was going on. Is I caught the odd pass. We argued with Elliot Friedman about coverage. Friedman was playing, and it was one of our weakest links. And it was in for a lockout, which has very few positive memories that day. And then my aching body for the next 3 days after that is still a very positive memory. But Clarkie, you were wiring it.
I remember that. And the thing I remember is, I know we played the Toronto Sun, and at some point, maybe it was you that instigated this, Frank Ziccarelli picked up the ball and walked away. He picked up the ball and was gone.
Well, because it was Ziccarelli and I were going toe-to-toe at the end because there were a certain number of plays left. Then he was rushing, and then I slapped the ball out of his hand. Like, we went back to being 8 years old. Like, anyway, whatever. Yeah, so that's fun. It had a little bit of edge to it. So
the good old days, eh?
That's right. Well, it's good. Sadly I got a little bit of that edge still, which in your 60s doesn't play as well. But
so do I, no doubt. You're playing tennis and pickleball and curling and no, for sure. I get to play hockey a couple times a week, so it's all good. We're still going.
We don't mind that. You got to have a little bit of edge. And speaking of edge, let's start with this, Clarkie. There's a guy who was a big-time leader in the hockey world for a long time that we just lost a few days ago. David Branch passing away. 45 years as the Ontario Hockey League commissioner, 19 of them spent as president of the Canadian Hockey League. And Clarkie, I know, just with your experience over the years at Junior Hockey Magazine with a number of different people who have moved on to great careers, and having met David, all of us numerous times, I'm sure. I mean, he was always so much fun to run into, amazing advocate for junior hockey. And you could really tell he cared about not just the product, but he cared about the kids and the players. He was the guy who was a big time instigator, guys, of the scholarship program, of course, for players, and really believing that mixing in education was a huge component of these guys coming into the league and having successful futures beyond being OHL players. Clarkie, I'll start with you. What a loss for the hockey world. 77, we lose David Branch just this past Sunday. Just talk a little bit about your experience working at Junior Hockey Magazine and the impact that this guy had on hockey.
Yeah, huge. And he was commissioner of the OHL, but also president of the CHL. Held 2 titles for the longest time, which was incredible. And just all I remember, I remember a lot about David, but he was always available. Whenever Junior Hockey Magazine called, whenever Stellick called, the big show. He was always available. He was great with the media. He knew how to handle us. He was just a super guy. I never really knew him off the air that much, but what I remember about him professionally, just a class A guy all the way.
Yeah, Clarkie, and I'm glad you mentioned, because Clarkie did that show with Gino Retta, and then of course Colin Campbell, not the guy from the NHL, but another guy. You were the trio that kind of like I did. I was involved in the Rinkside Show, which is an American Hockey League magazine show. This junior show went longer in that. And so David Branch, I used to kid him because he really was the first ever commissioner. Like, he brought them from the Stone Age to the modern world age, because the previous guy, his name was Tubby Schmaltz, and he was in Walkerton, Ontario, of all things. So I would give him, he would start chuckling when I'd say, when you took the job from Tubby Schmaltz, whatever. So he did. So, and part of, you bring up the education thing, and he had to do that with a little bit. That was reactive, because all of a sudden NCAA teams were attracting kids because there was like no education opportunity. So he made sure he stepped in that. He big on discipline, man. He was at the cutting edge, that you didn't screw around. He didn't give it a slap on the wrist. And then growing the game as far as the number of teams go, the accessibility now on TV and everywhere. My brother Bob and I knew him pretty well, and it was funny. We had a lunch set up in the summer, and then he had to bail. And then when we set up again in September, he couldn't make it again. This time was a little bit vague, so I didn't realize what was going on. But as you mentioned, he was phasing out anyway, but he is a giant when it comes to the world of junior hockey.
Yeah, he absolutely was. Made a tremendous impact. Gord, that's another thing that is a big part of his legacy too, the discipline. Like, you could argue, and many people have, that he was actually kind of ahead of the curve in terms of supplemental discipline for things like headshots, that the OHL and really the CHL at large really started hammering down on in terms of stiff punishments, more so than the NHL did. The NHL took a while to kind of catch up, and generally they're the trendsetter and the junior leagues follow suit. No, Branch was the guy who was really, taking those suspensions seriously. And, you talk about discipline. He handed out some serious headline grabbing suspensions and even lifetime bans over his time as the Ontario Hockey League commissioner. Bans that were completely justified when you go back and look at those incidents. He was fair, he was compassionate, but he was tough, and he was not going to let people or teams or executives push him around when it came to doling out discipline. And I think everybody respected him, as they should, for that, among many other reasons. Tremendous loss for the junior hockey world. I know, we're recording this on January 8th tomorrow, and all the OHL teams that have had games since are holding a moment of silence for him. So rest in peace, David. And you're right, Clarky. He was awesome with the media. He knew that was part of the game, and he was always spectacular to talk to. Speaking of part of the game for Team Canada at the World Juniors these days, boys, not winning gold medals. And there's Porter Martone shaking the Finns' hands after a bronze medal win. Another disappointing loss to Czechia. The Czechs have our number right now, and it's just incredible to see. As a hockey fan, Gord, I think you'd look at this and say, this is great for the product. It's incredibly entertaining. That Czech team, they looked like they were bound for gold, and the Swedes finally figured out a way to get their hands on just their third ever gold medal at the tournament. But the conversation up here, of course, is what's wrong with Canada? Do we need a summit? Like, I don't think it's that dire, but what was your overall impression? No, it's not that dire.
There's two guys who would play for Team Canada, and we would have won.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Like, people forget that there's some junior players that could have been playing for us. But Gord, your overall impression of how Canada played and the tournament storylines.
Well, first, I'm not making this up. In all honesty, I'm half Czech. Our name was Stellick. My dad came from Prague in 1948 and Canadianized it. So we tend to be very swarthy, chiseled, and very athletic people. So that, helps explain to Canada. Clarky jumped in there, and I know what he's jumping in about. I cannot stand anyone ever saying we let our country down. Okay. No, you did not let our country down. And the other point, it's funny, I was reviewing Alexander Ovechkin's statistics just, because he's Alexander Ovechkin, and he would have been in the NHL in 2004 and 5, but there was the lockout. He got to go back to the World Juniors as a 20-year-old for his third World Junior, and he kicked ass. And to your guy's point, start with Macklin Celebrini and a bunch of others. Like, if you put the best, whatever, on the world. But anyway, the other point is, one is, this team, last year, no question, there was some dysfunctionalness about how it went, and the young kids took way too much crap for it, okay? They were kind of vilified. That's BS, okay? This year, they were a gunslinging team, So they went to battle with it and they fell on their sword. It was tied with a couple of minutes left. Czechia and a lot of other countries are really good countries nowadays. It is kind of unfortunate, unusual that 3 consecutive years you've lost in the waning moments to the same country. I just wish women's hockey had more nations competing now. Like, it would be, okay, fun if Canada, USA, you always win gold or silver. But you see on the men's side, there's a lot of countries that are relevant. And I just wish on the women's side, more other countries would step up.
I think we will see that eventually now with the, really the coming out party that the PWHL has had since its inception and its continued growing success. I think with the product now at the pro level having the success it is, the international level will follow. The Swedens will catch up. The Russias will catch up when they're eventually allowed to play internationally again. And Czechia, of course, will catch up. Finland. They've already cranked out high-level players in the women's game. Just the overall program, they're a bit behind, yes. But I think that we're not far away from that being a reality, Gord. However, I do want to ask you this, and Clarky, I know you'd have thoughts on this as well, being around the sport for a long time. One thing that always comes up, and it only seems to come up when Canada loses, but it is worth bringing up, is the future of the game and how much these other countries have caught up at the junior level. We'll see what the Olympics bear for us, but there's always a conversation about the health of the game. And when you look at the numbers, participation in minor hockey is down across the board. It's kind of scary when you look at some of the numbers, honestly, the participation level among youth in hockey. The costs are astronomical. Ice time's astronomical. Are you worried at all, Gord, about what the future of Canadian hockey looks like over the next 10 to 15 years with the cost of it? And many people saying, I just simply cannot do that.
So the big question, no, I'm not worried about the state of it. The cost of it, yeah, it always has been pretty cost prohibitive. And now when sticks are $300 instead of $30, but those young people really weren't getting a chance to play regardless. And yes, if more opportunities can be provided, that would be great. We're in a global world. So first of all, we're talking about the World Cup, Canada's place in it now. And I know we're there because we're one of the hosts, but just where that has grown compared to when it was hockey. Like, I'm of an age that the early 1970s, I think every player in the NHL was Canadian except a guy named Tommy Williams, who was American. Okay. So that's changed dramatically. And take a look at whenever the Olympics are next for basketball. Okay. Look where Canada is all of a sudden now. We're at the table. Okay. Miracle on Ice in 1980, when the Americans get serious about something with 10 times the population we have, they're going to be serious. And you've seen the growth in other areas as well. So I view it as a positive. It's it's the good old days when you're the one superpower and you can kind of run through everybody, kind of like the USA Dream Team did way back when in basketball. But, that's our reality. But the point you bring up about the affordability of any sport, yeah, that's something. Hockey, it's not a disadvantage. It's just a reality, and it's problematic. So you're 100% right.
Yeah, it's interesting, Clarky. I mean, you had 2 daughters that played softball, and I know you coached. Like,
yeah, but it's ridiculously different. Like softball, you buy a glove and a ball for $40-$50, and you're ready to go. This hockey stick situation is out of control. Like $300. I've seen sticks for $600. It is ridiculous.
Don't even
look at goalie sticks. Like, I remember the good old days when I used to get given goalie sticks. Those days are over. I got to buy them now.
Clarky's office was a locker room. Clarky was like, he was like a hockey supply center, his office at the Fan. I can tell you that. He had the best pads, best everything. And
still got them. Still use them.
Well, good. Yeah. You better.
But yeah, absolutely. And I don't think I'll ever buy another set of pads.
I'm half surprised, Clarky, that you're not trying to tell us you carved your first goalie stick out of a redwood or something.
No, but I have an old Titan goalie stick. When I went to Finland back in the 70s or 80s, I guess it was, we went to the Titan hockey stick factory and everyone bought a stick on the way out. It was like, wow, $5-10. But I have a Titan goalie stick that I bought at that factory and I still have it.
Should have bought 10 of them.
Yeah, for sure. That's what Gretzky used, was the Titan. But that is out of control. There's no doubt. But softball, like basketball, you buy a basketball, $20. There you go. So I can see it's now the elite sport in Canada. Like, it's hard for kids who have parents who don't make a lot of money to play the sport, which is sad. It's really sad, but I firmly believe that is true.
Yeah.
And I see it too. I see, like, my daughter's boyfriend, Dan, coaches the Toronto Red Wings U13 team. And he will often have parents come up to him, and he does private lessons, which he charges for. And the parents have to pay for the hour ice time, which has got to be $300-400, like for 1 hour of lesson from a very good coach. And Dan, no doubt about it. But man, oh man, I can't fathom coming up with that kind of money. And I have 2 grandsons now who love playing hockey. So get ready. Get ready.
Grandpa might have to help out a little bit. You better save that. You better cut that Titan stick down a couple feet, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's why, Clarky, I may have misread your text, but that's why I was glad to hear I get $5,000 for appearing on the show, because, you know, just to help mitigate the equipment costs. So I appreciate
Check's in the mail, Gord.
No problem.
Check is in the mail, brother.
It's curling broom.
It's something. Those aren't cheap either, buddy. Like, they're expensive. Like, sports are expensive, sure. Like, I mean, we talk often, you're right, Gord, it's a good point. Like, it's become more globalized. Other sports are becoming popular. Soccer, basketball, of course, you know, the advent of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander nowadays. Like, yeah, he's pushing a lot of kids onto the hard court, and as he should, and that's great. I do worry a little bit about the viability and maybe some athletes that we're potentially maybe going to lose out on in hockey because of it. But
I think the only issue in Canada is the cost of playing.
The equipment and the ice time. The equipment and the ice time, it's those are 1 and 2 in my opinion, for sure. In terms of, you know, the tournament overall and what we saw with Canada, there they are. There's the lads winning bronze. And again, like you said, Gord, I can't stand it when people get on these kids and, you know, and
but the kids got on themselves too.
Yeah.
Like, don't say
it's so
conditioned. You didn't let the country down. You guys played hard. It was a good game.
It's conditioned in them. They think we got to win gold or it's nothing. And that's just not true. And like,
that's what Carlo Koliakovo, not to interrupt you, but I'm going to, Carlo Koliakovo talking this week on some other morning show that talks hockey a little bit. He was talking about teams and like, be great on an okay team instead of being just okay on a really good team, and learn how to lose. Because a lot of these kids don't learn how to lose when they play on these super teams.
That's very true too.
He sees that as being one of the problems.
That's very true too, Gordon. I'm interested in your thoughts on that. I mean, you were a general manager, you know about putting teams together. That's another thing too. Like, a lot of these kids, they play on these big traveling teams that go to the US for tournaments, and they're with, you know, you'll look back at these guys when they're doing interviews in the NHL, and there they are on their team with 11 other first-round draft picks playing for the Toronto Marlies or something. Is that something that, you know, like what Clarky said, you're concerned about maybe a little bit? Just some of these guys that take hockey maybe a little too seriously when they're young and they don't learn adversity?
So because I work with the Leafs in the 1980s, people, whenever there's adversity, they call me to have comparables. Like, you know, is this the worst since when? But I tell you, so first of all, again, since it's a good topic you're talking about, I don't know when it flipped, but it's all about parenting nowadays and how things have changed. Like, you know, decades ago, it started, the principal was the principal and was the god of a school. And now it's maybe the worst job going because the parents are on his or her ass all the time. So I can remember just the 1980s, whether, you know, it was Russ Courtnall, Todd Gill, Vinny Domfus, Wendell Clark, you know, you name it, about being drafted. And the parents just deferred to the team and just, oh my goodness, and whatever. And it was wonderful getting to know them. And, you know, they weren't all over things. And then I'm talking like 10 years later, 97 or something like that, 98, when I briefly helped Gord Kirk. He was being in the player agent world. Actually, Rick Nash he was with Joe Resnick and ended up being with Kirky a little bit. And I can remember it was the OHL draft. I think it was, speaking of David Branch, 96, 97. And you're drafting 16-year-old kids. And the night before it, we had some interviews set up, I think, say 4 parents. And I'm talking, this isn't long since when I left the Leafs, when, you know, Les and Elma Clark were just great parents. You hung, you know, whatever. And I just said, I cannot kiss the ass of any more parents anymore in these interviews. Like, it had changed. Like, they wanted guarantees about what can you do for my kid and all that. Now, I think maybe it's come back a bit. I don't know. Like, you can't get your kid in the NHL. So anyway, and to your point about the ice time, Clarky, like, and I'm part of the hockey parent, people have become ice pigs. They said, oh, we got to practice 3 times a week. Oh, now we got to practice 2 times. Well, no, you don't. Everyone
at 7 a.m.
Well, okay. Our son Justin's 22, and we're in a type A personality, North Toronto environment. And when he started, there were all kinds of kids that a lot of parents thought would make the NHL. Okay. And the one guy went because he went to the AAA program and was the best guy from the word go, is a buddy of Justin's named Wyatt Johnston. Okay. He was the best kid when they were 7. He's the best kid in the NHL now, whatever. And you got a lot of other stories right now. And some of them are playing in stupid places at 22 with the hope that maybe, and now they'll probably could go to university at 23 and graduate when they're 97, whatever. So anyway, it's just different times, different styles of parenting. And if you're an entitled family or a fortunate family or whatever the word might be, you're making it more expensive unnecessarily.
100%. I mean, I can't remember which book this was from, but I often think of that line where, you used to drive to the hockey arena and it was full of, pickup trucks and minivans, and now it's full of Mercedes. And I mean, like, that kind of speaks to what we're looking at here. It has, in my opinion, I don't like whether you want to talk about this cost and what we can do with it, and this is too prohibitive. I don't think that it can be argued that it has become a little too elitist in certain respects. And like I said, like, people are taking this sport way too seriously with kids that are 12, 13 years old. They've got agents. I understand there's a machine here and we want to help support these kids that are talented, but I just wonder if we're not letting them be kids, maybe. Like,
well, I don't think there's any question about. But also look at the Paul Marner story, that video from CBC way back when, and even now, like, I still think he's doing the same thing. I don't know.
Well, and the other part is, it's not just hockey; it's every sport. And now, unfortunately, a kid can only has to focus on one sport. So you're not going to have the two-sport athlete come out, like from NCAA or whatever, or the Wayne Gretzky's of the world that were great at lacrosse and baseball and other things. And it's just, unfortunately, it's like 12 months a year. Clarky, you're mentioning about the connection about getting extra training and all that. And that's all good, but a lot of people think that's going to make a difference. It's incredible anyway. And it's not just hockey, it's everything else. And unfortunately, kids should be allowed to be kids and throw their skates away in the summer and, maybe a semi-reasonable amount and go out and do other sports that help. But it's, hey, changing times. And that's kind of the reality nowadays, but it's not just hockey.
It's just, I got to keep up. All the other guys are doing it. One guy, next guy. That's what it's all about, right?
Exactly.
Well, you do and you don't. You think you do.
No. I know. That's what I mean, though. Most of them think they do.
100%. A tone gets set in a certain way. And you're right, Gord. I mean, other sports, like, I remember a buddy of mine, his niece is like a high-level swimmer. She's a youth swimmer. She wants to go to university for it. Like, I couldn't believe the costs. Her dad was telling me about what it costs to get those special, like, moisture wicking swimsuits and the cap. They're unbelievably expensive. And I was also
remember we had Lauren Campbell on talking about how expensive her suit is and her
Lauren Campbell.
She was going down to the States, right?
I couldn't believe it. We should have her back on. It's crazy. But one thing that is true of anything, Gord, and you would have dealt with it, I'm sure, at different times. And I know it's even more exacerbated now, as you said. You talk to any coach, and like Clarky, we know a lot of coaches at various different levels. And, when you ask most of them, what's the toughest part about coaching? And at the youth levels and even junior hockey, I would venture to say 95% of them don't tell me, oh, it's teaching systems, it's getting these guys in shape. It's dealing with parents. And at this swim meet, I couldn't believe some of the stuff I was hearing out of parents' mouths. I was like, they're swimming in a straight line, guys. Like, can we relax here? I don't know what happened to parents, man. They just went crazy. It must have been a Y2K thing, Clarky.
I don't know.
The year 2000 hit and everybody's computer reset.
Coaching softball. It was awful.
Oh, I bet you heard some unbelievable stuff.
And like, none of these girls are there's no professional softball league for the girls. So I don't know. It was
Well, it's sort of the, by the way, Clarkie's Speedo at the old fan pool parties was about $8. So he certainly was within budget, but
saver.
But a lot of us grew up that the mother was at home. There were 4 or 5 kids and the dad worked. And anyway, so it's just a different, different time in that regard. Now, one other thing I got to say, I remember talking to Jeff Jackson as a player agent and before he went to Edmonton, and you could say, and he just mentioned that nowadays, if you're an agent and you don't like the situation your kid's in with a junior team, you're going to do something about it. And this is before you could go NCAA. Now, that could be over-involvement, but also look at it. Really, isn't that the right thing? Like, what about decades ago that your kid went to a crappy junior setup and was there for 3 years, and how much that hurts your development, right? And so as long as it's reasonable parties on all sides, but you're challenging the junior operation to be a top junior or a good junior operation. Otherwise, you're going to explore the options where decades ago you'd be stuck. And, then quite often that's a big difference about someone coming. I mean, those are incredibly important years, not just about making pro, but about life lessons, moving on, being successful on and off the ice and whatever you choose to do. So, yeah, there's way more involvement now, which can be a negative because they're on your ass all the time. But also there's an accountability. And man, the NCAA, wow. But I like it. Like, why should you play half a season junior and then you turn down going to Michigan and you're screwed? And now you can kind of say, okay, I got a mulligan. I'm gonna explore NCAA opportunities and maybe get an education out of it.
It's funny you say that, Gord, because I was talking with Dan McKenzie, the current CHL president, at the Memorial Cup official announcement in Guelph just a couple months ago. And he's obviously been asked this question 100 times since the NCAA ruling. And he said, you know what? Yeah, we lost some really high end players that have gone down there and explored opportunities. We've gained upwards of 250 players that never would have been able to consider our league across Canada in the dub, the Q, and the O. So it's kind of a two-way street. Like, there are a number of players on the Guelph Storm this year that are NCAA commits that are playing junior hockey, and it's incredible. And you mentioned agents being able to swing things in the OHL. I mean, that just happened. Canada's goaltender Carter George, the rumor was he wanted to trade out Owen Sound. It ended up getting done, but there was this Boston College kind of cop out hovering over them, and Dale DeGray ended up having to pull a trigger. My buddy Greg Cowan for the Owen Sound Sun-Times did a great piece about that if you want to look into that a little more. Speaking of things, looking into things a little more and things turning around a little bit, have things turned around more for anybody than this guy right here? Man, oh man, Austin Matthews looks like he walked into a time machine during the Christmas break, Clarkie. He looks fantastic. Your boy breaking records. Gord, ultimately, what are some of the things that are sticking out about the way he's playing right now that just weren't there for him the first few months of this year and really all of last year too? What's different?
Well, and by the way, it's great about him getting his proper props for the all-time goal scoring record, because there's only 6 original 6 teams, and the other 5, it's still like Rocket Richard, Bobby Hull,
crazy,
Gordie Howe that are the all-time scorers. And the Leafs were the second best of those original 6 teams history-wise. So that kind of puts it in context. The health thing is always a mystery. That has to have been a factor. So maybe that alone is what's happening, and he's doing it with no Nylander, with no Mitch Marner this year. I mean, he's done it before at times when they've been out of the lineup. So all I know is, I don't know if it's the 11th hour, but it's getting pretty close for both the Toronto Maple Leafs as a team and Austin Matthews as a leader. Like, boy, you were on the verge of it being an irrelevant season. Excuse me. Nothing to sneeze at. And anyway, so I'm glad to see it, because I thought for last 5 years, top 3 forwards, McKinnon, McDavid, Matthews. This year, 2 of the 3, Celebrini, and at one point, 80 others, before Matthews. Now we're seeing more of what Austin Matthews has been, and I believe will be moving forward. If he stays with the Leafs for a while, like his whole career, but just even for a while, they're lacking team success still, okay, in his era, playoff success. But the records could be, hypothetically, Austin Matthews, team leader in goals, Matt Sundin second, 400 goals less. It could be that absurd. Like in Edmonton,
sure.
Connor McDavid can get 8 million points, but Wayne Gretzky set the bar pretty high, right? And Joe Sakic did that. And, anyway, we'll see what happens. They, by virtue of how close it was, they kept things, within eyesight, but they were starting to drift. And now it's a very clustered area, but they're in the fight anyway with elbows up, led by a captain who still has to not sell us, but figure out what captain means as far as for him and any kind of success and any kind of difference it can make with the team.
Do you buy into this theory that I hear going around? This adversity now could help them later in the playoffs, just going through this adversity. Do you believe in that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I believe it in any situation. Florida Panthers, first year, they barely got in the playoffs. You remember when they came to Toronto and Paul Maurice tore a strip off them during the game, but I think Keith Tkachuk had already done it that afternoon on a radio show. And man, you look at that charmed run in the Canadian division, and we had tickets because there were no tickets that year, but thinking, okay, wherever they play in the semifinals or conference final, we could go there and watch it. And they have a 3-1 lead against Montreal, and you know what happened. I know, but they didn't have any. It was too easy a ride. I think so.
Clark will be in pain. Clark is in pain right now.
Well, and again, there's a whole other show about that and why Mitch Marner's gone, because the lack of accountability, instead of everybody pissing and moaning and poor Mitchie getting crap on social media, which why you're reading social media, like why, just whatever. You should be so pissed you blew that lead. And it became, we got to do the process and the kid gloves. And anyway, whatever. That was a different time. So now
I still think, though, this team is better off the way they're built without Mitch Marner. I really believe that.
Well,
time will tell.
You can't be in the regular season, obviously, but something had to give, and his contract happened to be up. Okay. And
he chose to leave.
Yes. He was not run out of town. And maybe that mentality being gone is a positive to your point, Clarkie, but talent wise, over 82 games, that's part of the challenge for them in the regular season. There's no question something different had to happen in the playoffs.
Let's get some thoughts from a guy that talks about this an awful lot on Sportsnet, the Fan 590. Very good friend of the show. Let's bring Mike Gentile in here. Mike, there he is. Happy New Year, sir. There
Gord
he is.
Stellick. I'm not worthy. This is amazing.
Oh, come on. Yeah, it's a great round table here.
Gentile, is Gentile being held hostage somewhere? Are you okay? Do we have to pay a ransom? What's going on there?
Background. This looks like I'm gonna wear a shirt that says "Send help."
Yeah,
it's a home office.
Blink twice if you need something, Mike.
Yeah, that's my safe word.
Hey, let's just wrap up with Gord, then we'll move over to Mike here. But Gord, do you think? And I know this is just your opinion, but are the Leafs going to continue this role and get into the playoffs? Are they worthy right now of contending for a cup?
No.
So,
I didn't ask you, Drury.
I'm going to answer the question, but I always, the fan alumni thing, Gentile, you with the Santa hat and the Cinnabons is always my great memory sitting in the producer's room. And I'm glad we've reconnected so many years later to the opportunity to work again together on your show. And I you know what? I still have a bias, and I'm going to say yes, absolutely yes. The Leafs will make the playoffs. I would not have said that. I would have qualified it 3 weeks ago, and we just had that discussion about adversity and could this be a positive? So I am going to say yes. They're going to make the playoffs, and I think that'll be a healthy way to start instead of cruising in like they did last year and some of the other seasons.
Well, we'll see.
You give your opinion, Mr. Drury.
Before you said no, right?
Okay, so I'm answering no to the full statement you gave. I think they can make the playoffs, but then you also said be considered as a cup contender. No. They will make the playoffs. They don't deserve to be considered a cup contender. They have 1.5 goalies.
Why?
They don't have a top line. Their defense is porous.
Vegas considered a cup contender? Is Edmonton
now?
considered
See,
a
the
cup
only
contender?
reason that Vegas
I'm asking those questions. I don't think take Vegas out. The Leafs have the same amount of points, man.
Okay, but we've seen Vegas do it before. We've never seen this Leafs team come close to looking like Stanley Cup contenders.
Okay, before Vegas did
Not
it,
every
did they
team,
do it?
Clarky.
Before Vegas did it, did they do it?
They went to the Stanley Cup final their first year,
before
Chris.
Washington did it, did they?
No, but they've been to a cup final in color TV. I'm just saying, Clark, we're getting him angry. See, now Gord wants to stay because Clarky's getting mad.
Gentile can clear this mess up. He is he's a master. Gentile's a hostage negotiator. He will come on the scene and there will be calm. There'll be no tear gas and everything. And everyone will sing "We Are the World" at the end.
Mike Gentile is going to be our Liam Neeson here. We are in Taken, and Mike Gentile's going to get it done. Gord,
thanks, Gord.
Always a pleasure to hear from you, brother. Thanks so much for doing this. Happy New Year.
See you guys. Take care. Okay.
Mr. Gord Stellick, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best, and you can catch
Chili. What's going on now? Let's talk a little shop here. What would you do if one of your guests got tied up? What would you do?
Don't do this, Chris.
You let him. You let him get away with it once, but not twice.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
That's why he's locked in the
role of Bob
basement,
McCowan right now. Just giving you some memories to remember what it was like.
It's me alone. It's not an issue, but you know what it's like when you're juggling.
Fine, it's all good.
I want
to. I had to do a little ribbing.
No, it's totally fair. I do want to jump in on what you guys were talking about.
Yeah,
please. We'd love your thoughts.
Will they make the playoffs? I think absolutely. Are they a cup contender? I would say absolutely not. But I'll
thank you.
Add to that. You never know. Let me give you an example.
Was St. Louis the cup contender when they came from nowhere?
Well, exactly. Okay, how about this one? The Florida Panthers, when they went to their first cup and they lost to Vegas, they were the President's Trophy winners the year before. Granted, right?
Yep.
No one was thinking they were going to beat Boston.
No.
Right?
Nope.
And when they pulled off that upset, no one's like, wow, you never know. They have what it takes to maybe go to the cup. No one thought boo of them, and they went. So you don't have to be like there are surprise teams that can make it. I just think right now the consistency's got to be there. Matthews has to carry them. They're going to need both goalies, both healthy, both playing amazing. Tanev's got to come back.
What? Yeah. I was going to ask you, what both goalies are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they need 2 or 3. And once, hey, how about the year of Anthony Stolarz? Yeah, signs the contract, essentially becomes the number 1 guy, begins the season, rips on his team immediately, like right in the first week, then has to walk it back with his tail between his legs, and hasn't been healthy since. And when he was healthy, he was terrible.
And there's something weird happening with that too, in my mind.
Something is up. But I'm just saying,
I mean, they're like, okay, he's out indefinitely, skating on his own. I mean, okay, I guess it's positive he's on skates or something. Like, we don't really know what that means, but you never know what it means.
Listen, they got to be healthy. And
there's my caveat.
Okay, riddle me this about Austin Matthews. So if you were to believe what he and the team tells you, he's fine. He's healthy. There's no injury. There's nothing to see here, right? No problem. So then
where have you been?
How do you explain the first part of the season?
Yeah, Gord just talked about that before you came on. Like he's convinced he had to be hurt.
Well, either he had to be hurt or he's regressing or whatever it is. But the only thing that is interesting right now about the season, he's been so good lately. They go where he goes.
Yeah.
If he can carry them, they can go anywhere.
Yeah.
The difference is when you watch him, like the hat trick the other night, the 2 goals, he looks like could be a Leon, could be a Connor, could be like he looks like
he's back.
A world player, right?
He looks like he's back, no doubt.
Those guys do it every single night. Set your clock to it.
Yeah.
This guy does not.
Well, and now he got 69 goals in a season. He must have did it that season.
Well,
but not this season.
Well, no, he did it once. He did the 69 goal season and then didn't do it in the playoffs.
Hasn't he scored the most goals in the NHL since like 2018 or something?
Since he came into the league, he leads the league in goals and 5-on-5 goals.
Regular season.
Regular season.
I'm just going to
regular season. I don't even know if he's top 20 in the playoffs.
I'm just saying he is close to those guys. There was a time where it was McDavid and Matthews, who's the best player on earth. Like he was right there. He hasn't been consistent. And then you got to say what has led to that. And I think he just hasn't been healthy. That's it.
I think so.
And
too.
I don't even think it's an effort. I think William Nylander chooses when he wants to care about playing. I think he's choosing. I think Matthews tries, but there's nights where he just doesn't have it because there's health concerns there. That's what I think. Because when he's healthy, he's dominant.
No doubt.
Right? He does this. He does this. He sets a new mark in Maple Leaf history.
And not only is he scoring a lot of goals in the last 4 or 5 games, he's getting 10, 15 opportunities. Like he could have had 4 or 5 goals the other night. Like he's getting a lot of, he had 2 breakaways.
Moving well.
Like, yeah, he's skating better. There's no doubt. And maybe it's just finding the line.
I'll be the first to say,
who knows?
I'll be the first to say, does he act like a captain? Is he great with interviews? Like all this other stuff. There's this whole narrative about, but can he drive his own line? And then I'm just like, you know what? Who cares? This guy just needs to score goals.
Yeah,
that's it.
I agree.
Money for.
I agree. And we're not in the dressing room, so we're not going to know if he's a leader in there or not.
And you know what? For all we know, Troy Stetcher's taking that role. For all we know, Scotty Lawton's taking that.
Exactly.
It's
Lawton.
Or John Tavares is still that guy.
You know what? You know what Gordon mentioned earlier? You guys touched on this. I said this the other day, and people kind of laughed. But I thought, remember, for years and years, the Leafs were this absolute thrill ride during the regular season. The most entertaining team, high scoring team, but they couldn't translate that into the playoffs. I think it's possible under Berube and how they're playing. Is it possible that they've become now the flawed regular season team that's up and down? You never know if they'll make it, but damn it, if they make it in the playoffs, they're actually better prepared now to be a playoff successful team than they were in the past with the roster, with how they play lockdown defense. That's how I'm seeing it.
And I asked Gord if he thinks the adversity that they're going through and have gone through is going to help them. And he said, absolutely, it's going to help them. So
it's supposed to, it should, but my concern with all of this is, Clarky, you're bringing up my guys and St. Louis. And St. Louis went on an absolute tear, and they were healthy. The Los Angeles Kings snuck into the playoffs, couldn't score a goal to save their life. They snuck in as the 8th seed in 2012. They were healthy. I'm worried about this already leaky back end. Morgan Rielly, like, God love the guy. He's a talented skater. He is in Narnia right now, man. Like, he's not playing in the NHL right now. I don't know what his deal is. And now you got Tanev, who could potentially be out for the rest of the season if these rumors are to be believed, and he's getting this very serious surgery. He might not be able to play. There's your best defensive player. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who won a Stanley Cup as a third pair guy, can he keep up this high level of play and drag this defense core into a level that they need to be at in the playoffs? And then who's starting in net? Because we've seen over the course of his career so far, Joseph Woll, he'll get in there. He's brilliant for 2 games, Mike. And then all of a sudden there's a mystery ailment and he can't play game 7. It's like, that's my concern for this Leafs team. Do I think the adversity helps them? Yes. Do I think if Matthews can actually show up in the playoffs for the first time in his career and actually impact a game and win it for them off his efforts alone? I don't know. But if they can do that, yeah, sure, they could do it. But I'm concerned about the health of this team and the fact that, Mike, they don't really have any assets left to trade to improve the team.
Well, a couple of things. One, the only asset they would have is if they potentially want to trade one of those goalies.
That's right. Which one do you trade, though?
Well, because not Easton Cowan.
Whatever one you trade is probably going to come back to haunt you. But
you're keeping Hildeby. You got to pick one of the other 2. I would trade Stolarz if I had to pick one of the 3.
Man, he's the older guy, right?
It's crazy to say that, but
you can't send Hildeby down.
But it's like the when the Jays had 3 catchers, like they got 3 goalies for a team that is desperate for any kind of trade bait, right? The other thing is, you mentioned they may be a better team without Marner, and I think like the way that I look at it is, I think they could be better without him. I don't think they are today, because if you look at his $11 million, if you look at the change in salary of Tavares, it was $17 million of savings. They didn't spend it terrifically, but if you manage to use that money and a Stolarz and you get a really good player in there, yeah, they could be better. I mean, they already peaked. They peaked in the Marner era. They were a first-round team. That's it. Like,
right.
The peak was there.
That's what I'm saying.
They were never getting
That's
better.
why I'm thinking, and I'm saying that I think they're better off the way they are now come playoff time.
But I'm worried about one thing, and this connects to playoff time.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Laughton gets hit the other night. He gets thrown into the boards. Was it Listerainen who hit him?
Nailed him from behind. Should have been 5 in a game.
Someone from that team should have went out there and tried to.
They still don't have that. I totally.
Why?
Agree.
What are you?
Why
doing?
would anybody do that?
Well, like, what do you do? Like, what more motivation do you need? This is hockey. Like we not watched hockey our whole life.
Mm-hmm.
What happens? Someone takes your head off.
I agree.
And then the reason people keep doing that is because they know that team won't respond.
Well, you know who the only guy who would respond? Scott Laughton.
Yeah, he would.
He would. Yes, he would.
I hear
once, and then people gave him crap for it. But how many times have we seen them not come to the back of one of their teammates?
I know. I agree.
And
totally agree.
I'm sorry, that attitude in the playoffs, because teams don't like. You think Florida came in there? You think Florida thought, geez, if one of us tries to take a swipe at one of their players, they may really come after us. Or they'll say, Toronto, they're the most gracious hosts. They make it so comfortable to play in their building.
Yeah. Joshua might have done something.
But that bothered me.
Again, it bothers me too, Mike, because we don't see that. It is lazy. They love a skate by. They love a little skate by and going, oh, that looks like it hurt over there. They love a skate by. And I hear all the time about how tough Jake McCabe is. Like I'm not begging guys to go out there and fight every night, but like Mike, what you're saying is extremely valid. What do you hear from every Stanley Cup winner? All these guys were together. We're a family. Everybody's pulling on the rope. We care about each other. I don't think that these guys over 10, 11 years have ever demonstrated one single time that they genuinely care.
Is that a dressing room issue? Is that something going on in the dressing room?
What else could it be?
I agree. They're not the Toronto Blue Jays.
Without Marner, they are less toxic.
I agree
that
1,000% on that.
But they're not. But they're just as soft. Less toxic, but they're still somewhat soft.
And I have a hard time understanding how that's possible. And especially, and again, I'm not begging guys to go out there and fight every night, but when the moment arises, that's the moment.
Yeah.
Well,
Game 7, that's the moment.
They got Matthews, they got Nylander. Neither one of those guys has that a part of their game. And teams follow the leader. That's just how it is.
That's what scares me about them,
that's why
with
they
this
keep
notion.
You could bring in a Reeves, a Wayne Simmons. You could bring in a
tried that.
It doesn't work because if it doesn't work from the top, you can't fix it with a fourth liner.
No,
it's got to be in the to borrow a term from tree living, the DNA of the team.
No doubt.
Go down the
list. Even Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid, if one of their teammates was thrown in the boards, you think they would just skate by?
No,
Sidney Crosby, those kind of guys, they'd be animals. So I think that's something, I think they're inching closer. I mean, honestly, I do like them better now as a playoff type of team.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of talent. It's not like they're missing goals.
A month ago, I said this team was unwatchable. They were probably the worst watchable team the Leafs have
They're
ever,
the most
I've ever
boring
seen.
Leafs team in the Matthews era to watch.
Well, none of that. I go back. I don't know.
Awful to watch.
They were awful to watch.
Right.
Now, I can't wait.
And you know what?
Why were they awful? Were they awful because of the expectations that you have?
Effort. No effort. Like you say, skate bys. It was skate by after skate by after skate by. There was no effort. It looked like they were playing to get Berube fired. I'm glad they didn't.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
That's what it looked like.
Because if you try to tell me, the difference was firing poor Mark Savard. If you're a special teams firing away,
maybe he's a problem. No, I'm just saying maybe there was more to it.
You want to know what I think it is? I don't think it was Savard, but I think it was this. When they fired Savard, two things happened. One, the team said, we don't like where we're going. We're not happy with the situation. Mm-hmm. And it solidified that Craig Berube wasn't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Because after that loss to Dallas, that was the Berube's done night.
Yeah.
They lost 3 in a row on the road, looked terrible.
Yeah.
If he didn't get fired there, they fire Savard, and I think they looked around and said, the next person out of this room is one of us. They're not firing anyone else.
I think you're right.
It's kind of like when you get thrown in with your siblings.
Yeah.
And your parents like, you know what? We don't care who started it. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think the team was honestly at that point looking to make him the scapegoat. And I think it wasn't about Savard being out. It was the vote of confidence, I think, for Berube. And now it's like, well, if you know your coach isn't going anywhere, guess what you have to do? Pick it up. And then all of a sudden, healthy Matthews is double healthy Matthews. Really?
It's crazy how it has turned on a dime. It has. It has turned around since they got rid of him. And they get rid of him a week before Christmas or days before Christmas. And I honestly thought Berube's gone, but because it's so close to Christmas, they're not going to do it.
Right.
And then they turn around and get, rid of Savard, and something has happened either in the dressing room. There's something has happened, and
I think
they're definitely playing better.
I like it. I like, God forbid they do miss the playoffs and everybody gets fired. I like this play from Brad Treliving because I like a guy that's got the balls to hold on to that bullet and go, I'm not shooting this thing off to appease you guys. We've given you everything you could have ever wanted, specifically the core guys, long-term deals, no move clauses, no trade clauses, this extra $1 million, because you wouldn't take 12, it had to be 13. You wouldn't take 9, it had to be 10.5. We've given you everything you could ever want. I'm not firing one of the only guys in this room that knows what it's like to even be in the presence of the Stanley Cup, let alone compete for it. I like the move by Brad Treliving, and honestly, I think you guys know this. The hockey world's a small world. That's going to play if he did get fired with other organizations. They're going to go, yeah, that guy, he stood up for Berube. And I think that plays.
Word came out that Pete DeBoer was not coming here. DeBoer made that call. He made the message to Berube, don't look over your shoulder. It ain't me. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And if we don't think these guys pay attention, I mean, they may not watch every show or whatever, but you know who does? Their agents, the people around them.
For sure.
And they tell them all the time. So don't give me this like, oh, they don't, the old adage, we don't read the newspapers.
But sometimes it's just the spark, like the Savard spark. Like, look at the Buffalo Sabres. They fire their GM
and go on a win streak.
Brought in all the players who all of a sudden turn it around. How does that happen? Something happened. Like
firings, if done at the right time, they work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The difference would be that's why, check this Leaf schedule. We got that, like twice against Marner coming up soon, twice with the Avalanche coming up, like all in this month. If you look at that January schedule, we will know before the Olympics what this team is.
Well, they got to start winning on the road because that's what they're not doing.
Based on points percentage,
but they're not winning on the road.
Based on points percentage, they have the third hardest schedule in the National Hockey League to the end.
Bring it on.
Based on what the standings are now, to the end of the season, they have the third hardest strength of schedule. So
bring it on. We're good. We're ready to go.
They need Matthews to keep doing it. Real quick, we got some time here. Let's talk a little bit about let's talk about Team Canada here. We got a few minutes left in the show. There is the roster. And when you look at this roster, Mr. Gentile, is there anything that you would like to see change? Something that didn't quite fit for you? Now, obviously, the caveat here being that it's highly likely, I'm hearing that Bo Horvat, unfortunately, because of injury, is not going to be able to play on this roster. Those are the reports out of the island. But outside of that, when you saw this finalized piece, your thoughts were what?
Well, first I thought, and I've always said, this is going to be not a team built from scratch. It's going to be an edit of the Four Nations team. Meaning if you made Four Nations, you have an edge. So it was always going to be a bit of an edit. So my first thoughts were, okay, they went with Celebrini. We thought maybe they wouldn't bring all the young guys in, but of course he had to be in there. That's fine. But I couldn't believe Cirelli made the team. That one surprised me a bit. And Sam Bennett being off there. To be honest, it almost doesn't matter because the team is so deep, despite all this thought that, there's so much trouble with Canadian hockey, but we're like developing the best players on earth anyway. It almost doesn't matter, but I did, like I like the addition, Stone being back in there makes sense. Suzuki, I like that. Bo Horvat, I love the fact he literally played himself on this team. I think Tom Wilson played himself on the team, and I think there's a spot for him. So everything looks fine, but you just can't sit there and make a great case for Sam Bennett not being on the team.
But is he going to be on it? Is he the first replacement?
I think he has to be.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If it was Scheifele, he would have been on the roster. So I don't think it. I think it's Connor Bedard if he's healthy, but that's another issue, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you had to go for someone that's not on the team now, I think the easy bet is you go with Bennett. I mean, he was good in the Four Nations. He was great in the Cup. He won the Conn Smythe.
What is it like? Yeah, he's done everything you want.
I mean, literally, even if you logically said make the case for Cirelli over Bennett, there's no case. It makes no sense. Now, I could be talked into, hey, they have Marchand, they have Wilson. How many of those guys do they really need? But as we saw some photos today, this ice surface ain't exactly large. And it's NHL, right? So that's all that stood out. I mean, the defenseman, I would have liked to seen Schaefer out there because, hey, let's let him grow. I think he's just that good.
He is good.
But I don't know if that's a difference of you got to ask yourself, was there anything they did that could cost them the gold medal? And I don't think so.
No.
I'm torn.
I agree.
I'm torn on what to ask you next. I want to ask does Jordan Binnington see the ice a lot? And if he does, will he come off it if they pull him out? Because last night it was unbelievable what happened.
Joel Hofer went missing.
He went missing. And Binnington didn't want to come off. But I don't want to get too into politics, but is it time to let Russia back into this?
Yeah, that's kind of glaring. I mean, when you see people put their rosters together and you think of man,
I know
what it would be like. So now we could be selfish for a minute and say, world politics aside, damn, it'd be a better hockey tournament if Russia was in it.
Yeah,
100%.
But I feel that way with the World Juniors.
100%.
That's Russia in the World Juniors.
100%.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting about that, so let's be honest, the NHL, they're not making their own mind up. What they're being very easy and saying, we're going to follow what the IIHF says. We're going to follow and support what the IOC says, but they'll never make up their own stance. The question is, what happens? When is the war at a point where you could be like, okay, they're back now? Is it forever? Because I'll tell you, if you start playing that game, I'm looking at that FIFA World Cup. I'm thinking there's a lot of teams that probably shouldn't be there either. If you want to play that, right?
But FIFA are giant greedy pigs, and they don't care about stuff like that. They're just hit me with all that cash you got.
Listen, it's been 4 years, right? The war's been about 4 years old, right?
Yep.
Unless you could emphatically prove that the removal of sports has had an impact that has worked for the world and it blah, 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 blah. Unless you could prove that, I think there's nothing wrong with saying, listen, they're going to go back in because you are punishing innocent people. Not just 100%. The athletes. There's people that live in that country that don't want to be at war. And now
not at all.
Right. So I think at the time it was an interesting reaction. It would have been weird to put them in there. And there was such a connection. They use sports to get more strength in their politics. I totally get it. But it's been 4 years, and I don't know if there's an advantage of keep going with it. And sorry to say, but we missed them in the Olympics and all these venues. Man, it would be better, especially with those goalies. You have Ovi and Sid, their final ride
tour.
Together.
Yeah,
it would be insane. It would be insane.
Yep. It would be better. Well, we'll see if it comes to fruition someday and they let them back in. Eventually, they'll have to. Mike, thanks so much for doing this, buddy. Great start to the new year, Clarkie. It's a great start to the new year. We appreciate Gord Stellick,
what a
Mike
show.
Gentile coming on.
Anytime, and I mean it.
Anytime. Blink twice if you need us. We are all over your favorite podcast networks. We're on YouTube. Catch us on Rogers TV as well. Great to be back in the new year here on Instigating. We will see you next.